How Wirecard faked $2 billion in cash while fooling the financial world. In June 2020, Wirecard, once hailed as the darling of the fintech world, revealed a shocking truth. 1.9 billion euros, or nearly $2 billion, was missing from its accounts. This revelation resulted in a rapid spiral into chaos, leaving investors and creditors stunned. How could a company valued at $24 billion vanish into thin air overnight? To understand this colossal fraud, we must take a step back and examine the rise of Wirecard, a German payment processing company. Founded in 1999, Wirecard managed to position itself as a leader in the digital finance sector, providing services ranging from online payment processing to offering digital banking solutions. By the mid-2010s, it had emerged as a formidable player in the global fintech arena, boasting major partnerships with firms like Visa and MasterCard. Wirecard's success attracted significant investment and attention, leading to an impressive market capitalization. By 2018, Wirecard had become part of Germany's prestigious DAX stock index, further cementing its status as a major player in the finance world. However, behind the corporate success and public acclaim, something much darker was taking shape. The company's rapid growth had raised numerous eyebrows, but an overwhelming wave of investor confidence overshadowed these doubts. At the forefront of Wirecard's rise was its charismatic CEO, Markus Braun. A skilled orator with impressive academic credentials, Braun cultivated an image of a visionary leader who was transforming finance. He frequently spoke of Wirecard's ambition to become a global leader in electronic payments, and his confident demeanor reassured investors that their money was well placed. Under his leadership, the company generated an aura of invincibility. Yet in the shadow of this success, concerns began to surface. Reports from journalists and analysts started highlighting the opaque nature of Wirecard's financial statements. Investors began to question the legitimacy of the numbers being reported, particularly about their operations in Asia, where Wirecard claimed to have significant revenue streams. Still, for many, the allure of Wirecard was too powerful. The promise of profits overshadowed skepticism. As the company's valuation continued to rise, Braun introduced sweeping internal measures to silence critics. According to reports, he employed tactics designed to deflect scrutiny and potentially intimidate dissenters, creating a culture where questioning the status quo was discouraged. This environment fostered a sense of loyalty and allegiance within the company, dissuading employees from voicing any doubts about the company's operations or financial health. The facade of success became increasingly entrenched. As Wirecard reached new heights, it became synonymous with innovation in financial technology, boasting clients across the globe. However, it was the acquisition of a small Singaporean payment processor called Infotech in 2016 that would play a crucial role in the unfolding drama. Investigators would later reveal that Infotech was a central piece of Wirecard's deceptive puzzle. Rather than enhancing the company's global reach, it served as a gateway for a series of fraudulent transactions that would deceive investors and regulators alike. The troubles began surfacing as auditors from Ernst & Young (EY) struggled to verify Wirecard's whopping profits. Time and again, EY expressed concerns regarding Wirecard's finances, particularly regarding its supposed business activities in the Philippines. Internal documents pointed to a significant disparity between reported revenues and actual cash flows, but the company continued to insist that everything was in order. What started as a series of inquiries soon escalated into a broader investigation by authorities, leading to demands for clarity around the 1.9 billion euro supposedly held in trustee accounts in the Philippines. Clients in the region were claimed to be processing billions of dollars, yet withheld due diligence raised significant alarms. Wirecard's leadership was adamant. Braun claimed these figures were legitimate and even pointed to a false narrative propagated by external enemies as the source of skepticism. But as tensions heightened, it became apparent that only the tip of the iceberg was showing. Behind closed doors, Wirecard's operations operated like a complex web of shell companies and false claims. High-ranking executives like John Marsalek, Wirecard's former COO, became integral to a convoluted system that obscured the truth. A master of deception, Marsalek leveraged his connections with influential figures both in the business world and beyond to shield the company from scrutiny. Reports suggest that Marsalek had a penchant for elaborate ruses, employing a network of deceit to maintain the illusion of legitimacy. Under his watch, Wirecard allegedly engaged in misappropriating funds for years, inflating revenue numbers by creating fake clients and transactions. It was a recipe for disaster, and soon the reality came crashing down on the company. Investigators would later detail how fraudulent special purpose entities, SPEs, allowed Wirecard to create an illusion of robust revenue channels. These entities were used to book phantom profits, further embellishing the financial strength of Wirecard's operations. Most critically, it became evident that the 1.9 billion euros that would lead to the company's collapse was nothing more than a mirage, created by the same leaders who had once championed Wirecard's overwhelming success. As the investigation unfolded, one crucial question remained: how had so many people been deceived for so long? For every person who raised a red flag, there were countless others silenced, enchanted by the prospect of immense riches. Few anticipated the impending unraveling, and the company's fall from grace would leave a trail of destruction that rippled through financial markets. As doubts grew, the hammer finally fell in June 2020, when Wirecard admitted that it could not locate the missing funds. The ramifications were immediate and disastrous. Transactions were swiftly halted. Shareholders became restless, and the once mighty Wirecard faced liquidity issues. Investors who had bought into the vision curated by Braun and the executive team were left grappling with financial ruin as the connections between Wirecard's leaders and their bogus schemes began revealing the enormity of the deception. This betrayal of trust would not only lead to criminal charges and investigations by the prosecutors, but also serve as a stark reminder of the human cost behind corporate greed. Vigilant shareholders lost billions, while workplaces crumbled in the shadows of a house of cards built on lies and deceit. The question remains, how did this all occur under the noses of investors, auditors, and regulators alike? As the world watched Wirecard's meteoric rise, some savvy investors and analysts began raising red flags long before the collapse. A group of short sellers, notably including the hedge fund manager Fraser Paring, took a closer look at the company's financial statements and began to suspect that something was amiss. They scrutinized the data and questioned whether an operation claiming to process billions in electronic payments could actually sustain such numbers without rigorous oversight and transparency. But the question on everyone's mind was, why was Wirecard able to keep its facade intact for so long? Behind what was touted as an incredible success story, infamous whistleblower reports started trickling in, alerting the Financial Times to the potential fraud long before the company was brought down. A series of investigative articles began appearing, detailing suspicions surrounding improper accounting practices and the extraordinary financial maneuvers yielding enormous profits on paper, but lacked concrete evidence in real operations. The Financial Times conducted detailed investigations, leading readers to question Wirecard's operations in Asia, where significant discrepancies were noted. In late 2019, they published a piece that revealed a pattern of suspicious financial behavior, prompting both skepticism and outrage within the investment community. The articles implied that Wirecard was heavily reliant on an opaque network of partners, which allowed them to inflate sales figures without appropriately accounted cash flow. But shockingly, instead of acknowledging these warnings, Wirecard's executives, including Markus Braun, responded fiercely. They dismissed the reports as baseless attacks from short sellers looking to harm the company's reputation. Braun stated to the media that, "We are being manipulated, and there is nothing to hide," reinforcing an atmosphere of confidence. Investors, conditioned to believe in Wirecard's previous success, largely sided with leadership, bolstered by community trust and media narratives that painted the company as an innovator in Fintech. However, the truth was slowly unraveled further when Wirecard's auditors, Ernst & Young (EY), attempted to address the unsubstantiated claims regarding Wirecard's financial standing. In 2020, amidst waves of skepticism, EY declared on multiple occasions that they were unable to secure confirmations regarding 1.9 billion euros that supposedly existed in trust accounts in the Philippines and other jurisdictions. Yet this failure led them to further hesitation in verifying the company's other financial practices. The lack of transparency and increasing pressure from investigations was a proverbial storm gathering momentum within the company. The tension reached a critical point in June 2020 when Wirecard abruptly announced that it was unable to verify the existence of 1.9 billion euros that should have been sitting in third-party trust accounts. Then came the shocking bombshell. Wirecard conceded that these accounts likely did not exist at all. This revelation sent shockwaves across financial markets, as shares plummeted by over 60% in a single day. The very foundation of its operations had been constructed on fraudulent assertions that unraveled startlingly. As news of the insolvency broke, prosecutors launched a massive investigation into Braun, who was subsequently arrested, and other senior executives were also implicated. Investigators began to piece together a scheme that had allowed Wirecard's leaders to misappropriate funds while artificially inflating the company's performance through fabricated financial statements. The operations ran smoothly for years, harnessing funds from investors who believed they were partaking in an innovative and cutting-edge enterprise, demonstrating how corporate manipulation and deception created a perfect storm. But the collapse not only ended the careers of ambitious executives, it marked a watershed moment leading to wider discussions on corporate governance, regulatory frameworks, and the accountability of auditors. As the investigations progressed, more skeletons began to tumble out of the closet. Investigators uncovered transactions and capital pursuits that appeared designed solely to mislead, not fulfill. One rogue leader who quickly gained notoriety was Jan Marsalek, Wirecard's former COO, who vanished the moment scrutiny intensified. While Braun faced a fate in court, Marsalek's evasion became emblematic of the company's failed compliance and ethical failures. Questions surrounding his whereabouts prompted speculation. Was he still significant within the corporate world, or had he parachuted into the shadows of anonymity? As of now, he remains a fugitive, with authorities chasing elusive clues about his location. The fallout from the scandal prompted heightened regulatory discussions. In Germany, there was intense scrutiny over the role of BaFin, the National Financial Supervisory Authority. Critics argued that BaFin did not take warnings seriously enough, nor appropriately regulate the exponential growth of Wirecard. There emerged a growing consensus that deeper systemic reforms would be necessary to rebuild derailed confidence in capital markets. Furthermore, Wirecard illustrated the broader cultural tussles among corporate leadership. Many speculated on the allure of success that insulated unethical actions from scrutiny, echoing calls for a reevaluation of what constitutes corporate citizenship in the tech world. Organizations aimed to encourage transparency and ethical integrity must grapple with temptations that lead businesses astray. In a world fixated on valuations and growth metrics, how easy it is for executive leadership to lose sight of the moral compass in favor of unchecked ambition. The aftermath of the Wirecard scandal serves as a cautionary tale about the ease with which deceit can infiltrate even the foremost displays of corporate innovation. Investors are left to grapple with losses valued at about 24 billion euros at the height of the crisis, while thousands of employees faced unemployment as the company's valuations vanished, seemingly overnight. As investigations continue, and Wirecard's ongoing legacy remains firmly entrenched in corporate lore, the key question lingers. How could matters have spiraled so far unchecked? For investors, regulators, and the corporate landscape itself, sorting through the pieces left behind by the tangled scandal provides critical lessons for the road ahead. In 2020, the financial world was rocked when Wirecard, a German payment processing and financial services company, filed for insolvency, revealing that 1.9 billion euro was missing from its accounts. This startling revelation was not just a failure of corporate governance, but a glaring indictment of the systemic flaws within auditing practices and regulatory oversight. Wirecard's trajectory from a seemingly successful fintech powerhouse to a glaring example of corporate fraud raises crucial questions about trust, accountability, and the mechanisms that failed to detect the extensive fraud. Wirecard's rise to prominence in the e-commerce landscape came through a combination of strategic acquisitions and an aggressive expansion into global markets. By showcasing impressive revenue growth and a forward-looking technological vision, Wirecard attracted significant investment, culminating in its inclusion in Germany's prestigious DAX 30 index. This accolade served to bolster its reputation, painting a picture of a highly innovative company leading the charge in digital finance. However, beneath this confident exterior lurked a deceptive web of financial mismanagement and false reporting. One of the primary culprits behind this deception was Ernst & Young, the auditing firm entrusted with overseeing Wirecard's financial statements. For over a decade, EY produced clean audit opinions on Wirecard's financial health. But in 2019, concerns regarding Wirecard's accounting practices began to grow, piqued by investigative reporting and the skepticism of short sellers. Significant discrepancies emerged around claims that Wirecard held large deposits in trustee accounts at 2 Philippine banks. Despite these mounting allegations, EY maintained its stance about Wirecard's financial statements, raising questions about the efficacy and integrity of its audits. The mess unraveled dramatically in June 2020, when EY announced that it could not verify the existence of the €1.9 billion previously considered assets and supposedly held at accounts in the Philippines. This revelation followed months of intense scrutiny fueled by whistleblower information and investigations led by the Financial Times reporters, particularly Dan McCrum. McCrum's relentless inquiry laid bare a pattern of suspicious accounting practices and shady transactions that pointed towards a much larger issue than just missing money. Wirecard's leadership consistently downplayed these reports, alleging that they were part of a smear campaign orchestrated by investors and competitors. However, the nature of the accusations drew attention from not only the financial press, but also short sellers, particularly Fraser Paring, who publicly questioned Wirecard's balance sheet and profitability figures. Paring's firm, Viceroy Research, released detailed reports suggesting that Wirecard could present inflated numbers, which the company would vehemently deny. Despite the warnings, regulators, particularly BaFin, Germany's financial supervisory authority, appeared to be caught flat-footed. BaFin's response to the growing concerns seemed inadequate, leading to criticism from various quarters about their capability to oversee a company of Wirecard's size. Investigators later discovered that BaFin had even pursued legal action against Financial Times journalists for alleged market manipulation, rather than focusing on uncovering the truth about Wirecard's operations. This defensive approach not only stymied investigations, but also served to lend credence to Wirecard's self-portrayal as a victim of external forces. As Wirecard's executives continued to assert the legitimacy of their claims, the deception only deepened. In August 2020, Wirecard's CEO, Markus Braun, was arrested on charges of fraud and market manipulation, as revelations about his personal financial dealings came to light. Braun's charm and confidence had helped position Wirecard as a leader in digital payments, but those very traits masked the layers of deceit within the organization. Prosecutors alleged that he misled investors for personal gain, diverting funds from the company to grease the wheels of his empire and maintain support. The fallout was monumental. Shareholders saw their investments crumble, with the company's market valuation tumbling from €24 billion to zero in a matter of days. Employees faced job losses, while clients, who once viewed Wirecard as a model of security, found themselves scrambling to salvage their financial dealings. Regulatory bodies around the globe were forced to confront the inadequacies of their oversight mechanisms, learning painful lessons in transparency and accountability. In the days following Wirecard's insolvency, additional investigations revealed a complex web of international entities, many of which were shell companies allegedly created to hide the fraudulent activities of Wirecard executives. The scheme involved elaborate financial maneuvers, with funds being transferred through various accounts to obscure their origin and destination. Court documents and subsequent investigations revealed an alarming lack of safeguards in the banking systems involved, which enabled Wirecard to operate unhindered. As of 2023, Markus Braun's trial was still underway, along with a series of investigations into other company executives and auditors. As the world watched the developments unfold, immediate reforms in financial regulation emerged as essential. The Wirecard scandal served as a clarion call for stricter oversight mechanisms in a world that had increasingly depended on digital payments. The financial sector now grapples with renewed scrutiny, establishing frameworks intended to catch red flags early on and ensure that accountability is not merely an afterthought, but integral to the oversight process. Though the immediate crisis of Wirecard's collapse has passed, its legacy continues to haunt the financial landscape. The ambitious fintech community now faces the ongoing challenge of restoring trust and ensuring that the safeguards necessary to prevent such egregious fraud are firmly in place. The case remains a stark reminder of the need for vigilance, ethical leadership, and the constant intersection of technology and accountability in the ever-evolving world of finance. For me, stories like this remind us that even the most innovative companies can hide devastating secrets. Here at Corporate Crime Files, we bring you a new story every single day, exposing the schemes, the scandals, and the people behind them. Tomorrow, we are diving into WorldCom, the $11 billion accounting fraud. You will not want to miss it. I will see you there.